this is Rumor. Thank you if you're joining me today. And am I wearing the same outfit as in a previous video? Oh yes, yes indeed I am. I am going to be out of town all of September, so I'm just in a mood right now to pre-record some videos, so I've got a lineup ready in my absence. And I thought what I would do right now is just share, I don't know what to call it. I mean, I was gonna call it deck haul, but it's not really a haul. Like, I got all of this all at once. But I just feel like it'd be an update from the last time I did a video sharing what some of my recent deck acquisitions had been. Not counting my birthday video, actually. I did recently just share. The Complete Arthurian Tarot by Caitlin and John Matthews, and going along with that, the Mists of Avalon and Wisdom of Avalon Oracle. I did flip through some of these cards in that video. So yeah, I won't belabor that again here, but these were decks that I recently got because I was on a real Arthurian legend kick. And I still am. I have completed my cursory reading of some of the tales, and now I'm ready to like dive deeper into some of more substance, something more comprehensive. So since then, my most recent purchase, I believe, lives with my, I love the 80s tarot, and I have to share this every time now. I am so in love with this little cassette tape charm. I've talked about this deck before, or maybe it's not I love the 80s tarot, I don't know, just the 80s, but I have had this. What I got more recently, as a Dawn made me do it, after she shared these affirmation decks for both the 90s and the 80s, I immediately got the one for the 80s. Totally 80s affirmations. I was born in the 70s, and I did a lot of formative schooling, you know, high school and college years in the 90s. But the 80s really are where my heart lives. Like, I feel like I'm an 80s child ultimately. Let me just show how great these decks, just from the back, how great they look together. Match made in heaven. You see how they could just look together. So this is Nancy Reagan. If your charm were a drug, even Nancy Reagan couldn't say no. And of course, there is a War on Drugs card in the 80s tarot too. But unlike stirrup pants, jazzercise, giant shoulder pads, and car phones the size of a shoebox, you'll always be styling. Chips reference. So anyways, I could go on and on with this, but I mean, they all just have fun references like that. Like, look it's tricks. I'm not gonna go through and read them all, but you could just see just the general vibe. So 80s, the arcade games. Okay, what does that one say? All the arcade goons wish they were as good as you at Ms. Pac-Man. It's a hoot. And I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, a lot of these references, like the DeLorean, you know, for sure in this tarot deck too. So, and the Karate Kid that showed up a second ago. So yeah, it's just very fun to double the fun, if you will. And yes, so that was the latest and greatest purchase. Impulsive, yes. Do I regret it? No. Oh, I'm lying. I don't think that was my most recent purchase. Actually, I think even since that, I got 2 Oracle decks with the intention of combining them into one mega deck. And these are 2 that I have actually wanted for a while. They are now under different names. So I've got the Cosmic Oracle and the Avatar Oracle. And I believe these are both rock pool and the same author, Nari Anastasia. I think maybe these were like the cosmic reading cards and these were like Blue Messiah reading cards. And anyways, they have just basically redone them. I don't know if cardstock is different at all from the originals, but I do believe the originals had like thick borders around them, where these are borderless. These were also gilded. One was gilded gold, one was gilded silver, and so I've got them all just shuffled together, but these were the different backs. This is the Avatar Oracle, and this is the Cosmic Oracle. But same size, so they merge together really well as the mega deck. And I basically just picked these up again. They were ones that I've been interested in for a really long time, and I think I shelved it for a bit because I had recently gotten the soul cards 1 and 2, and that was giving me this sort of cosmic soul level vibe that I was going for, and I certainly still use them for that. And what is great about the soul cards is that there is no title, there's no guidebook, you really just let your intuition go from there. But I do think it's nice to have key phrases as well, and so I felt ready to like bring this in, to even use these with my soul cards perhaps, so that there could be just one takeaway giving a bit more of a concrete message. But regardless, this is still art that you can use quite intuitively as well. There's just like a vibration that comes off of these images that I think that alone you could just kind of connect with on some level and make your meaning of it. But oh, kitty, love that. So basically, I guess when I got this, I was just finding myself in a cosmic mood again, but similar to what drew me to the soul cards, or maybe especially what I realized about them after I had acquired them and worked with them, and really got into the visuals, like the art style. There's also, as I've said about the soul cards before, there's something very like ancient and earthy about them too, for as much as they feel like very big and out there and universal. And I get that from this as well. Because I mean, hey, the universe is ancient. It goes back quite a ways, and the stardust from which everything is formed. I don't know, a lot of times like when you think of like, oh, space and sci-fi and things just being very like glossy and futuristic, I like decks like this that kind of take that cosmic energy, but again, just give it like more of a gritty, grounded earthiness too. I really haven't worked with it enough to see where it ultimately lands with me and all these things that I'm saying, if that's really ultimately what I take away from it. But at the very least, like, look at that. Like, it's like the veins of a leaf, you know? Again, it's that earthiness, and soul cards has that same thing, and I feel like that's what helps me feel connected. That's my kind of cosmos. I think so much of what I've just said is exactly what I've said for Tarot of the Cat people as well. It's like the people and the cats in this are at once futuristic and ancient to me. So I think that these will be very cool together. And again, just something that kind of brings out that cosmic feeling, but in that earthy, grounded way that is still accessible in some way. I thought I was going to have these in some sort of order, like going from the most recent going back, but yeah, no, not really. But I think before these and before the Arthurian decks, I had gotten the Crystal Skull Tarot, which I was really on the fence with, because as with any tarot purchase, I'm like, do I need another deck. And of course, no, I mean, I never need another one. And in getting this one, I was just so drawn to it because I had just read a book by Judy Hall about crystal skulls, and I had just bought a new crystal skull. I have several of them in my collection now, which I would like to share in a video at some point. I would like to do some crystal videos. I just haven't gotten around to that. But just for the love of crystals and crystal skulls, I was just really in the mood for it. And so I went ahead and I got the deck, but I wasn't really sure, like, well, what am I going to use this for? Like, what is it bringing to the table that would be different from something else? But I mean, first of all, look at how cute this is. I mean, it's based on RWS. Rachel Pollack wrote the guidebook. It's just really clever renderings. It kind of reminds me of I had a writing blog called The Fallen Monkey. Feel free to check that out. There's nothing new on there from, I mean, it's been years since I've written on there. But I started this whole thing as just writing prompts because I had writer's block. I was trying to write my first novel manuscript, and I had a book of writing prompts that I would just, I would take a prompt and that would be like each blog entry would just be my response, like writing off the cuff. So then after a while, when I was blessed into writing and getting more into tarot, then I started using it as almost a method of journaling. Now, I shared my actual physical tarot journal in a previous video where that was the origin of it. But it was after I had like scrapped that, but I was kind of also trying to get back into it, but more with my own personal interpretations of things. I started doing entries with my daily card draws at the blog. And because I had this whole sock monkey theme running at the blog, and I had sock monkeys that I'd been given as gifts as a result of doing this vlog, I would pose the sock monkeys as the RWS card that I was drawing that day. And so anyways, long story short, that's what this kind of reminds me of, the way that I would pose my monkeys. I never got through the whole deck. I think I got through like 30 cards. But anyways, yeah, I wasn't sure though, like, oh, okay, I love the idea of this, but is it just novelty? And I wasn't sure. But when I bought it, the goal was to use it as something that could help me bond with my crystal skulls and get to know them a bit better, and maybe help with working with them, help with the communication between us. And since getting this, I found that it's really great for that, but not just limited to the crystal skulls. I've been using it just for other crystals that I have. I'll just have my little buddies. Like sometimes there's just one that I'm like, I don't know, I'm just intuitively kind of called to it, and it might be just like a little quartz point or something that I just kind of carry around with me. Maybe I tuck it in a pocket and or just have it sitting next to me at the desk as I'm working. And yeah, it just becomes my little crystal pal. And so I found myself like using this deck to kind of get a read on that crystal. Like, you know, what is it about you? Like, what is the energy that you're bringing to me that I'm seeking right now? And how is that helping me? And do you have a message for me right now and any advice? And I have separated out the court cards actually for this purpose, to get a sense of like a crystal or a crystal skull's personality, I guess, like what they're bringing to me, if there's a masculine or a feminine energy to it, and just kind of helping me either validate the sense I've already had from sitting with crystals, meditating with them. Like there are certain ones that I do bring out for certain reasons, and I get kind of a sense of their little personality, because yes, as with my decks, I personify my crystals as well. I might even name them. And so, yeah, doing this, it just kind of helps me to like either validate the vibe that I was getting from the crystal already, or just kind of give an extra insight into what I'm working with there, and then using the rest of the deck to kind of have these crystal conversations. It's been cool. And I haven't had it super long, but I've worked with it enough with my crystals to see like how valuable that is. And yeah, it's been really helpful. So this was one I wanted ever since I first discovered Lisa Pepez's channel, and she would show it, and it just looked so beautiful. The Corte de Tarocchi. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I feel like at the time, like I was first seeing her show it, maybe it had gone out of print. And then during a more recent Three Fat Readers video, they were talking about it. Dustin was showing it, I think, as one of his top 5, and mentioned that it is still in print. So I thought, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. So immediately, like after seeing that video and hearing their discussion of it, I went and I got it, because honestly, every time Lisa pulled this one out, I wanted it. It is just so beautiful, and I can't even describe the paper, the cardstock, like the texture. I mean, it feels papery. I mean, it feels kind of like cardboardy, but not in a bad way, and it shuffles like a dream. This dimension just feels so good for overhanding it this way, but it also feels really great to riffle shuffle. And I don't know what it is about it, but like when I first opened it, I could not stop shuffling it both ways. It was so soothing. But the artwork, it's made to look like it's something from antiquity, but it is absolutely not. It is a modern deck. It's Pip style. So cute. Maybe I could have added that in my comical cards video. It's very cute. It's just got a great aesthetic to it visually, but then in a tactile sense as well. And so I'm so glad to have this. It's so beautiful laid out on the table. It's such a clear one to read. I think I was pairing it with Terra Volatile, which I still have out from my other video that I just filmed. But I mean, really any deck that has this muted color palette and historic imagery. It's beautiful. I just love the box, and it's got this nice wax seal, and so it's just, yeah, it's lovely. So before that, or maybe shortly after that, oh no, this was definitely after I bought that one. Wow, I really have no order whatsoever going here. Like my memory is just hideous, but I can pinpoint the exact time frame when I got my next deck, and I forgot to grab it and bring it over here, so just give me a moment. This is the point at which you can learn what a despicable human being I am. It is an insight, folks, into my character. But I got this edition that has this nice wooden box. The timeline in question would have been the week they were searching for the Titanic submersible, the Titan. So as this search was still going on, when as yet we did not know whether the people aboard the craft were alive or dead already, I went and bought the Titanic Tarot. So this is the symbol of the white star line that's on the box. So my niece, my adult niece, who I had been messaging with back and forth all through this search, because we're both very into the Titanic, and I actually didn't even realize it was going on. She was the one that had alerted me to this submersible news. And I proceeded to just be going back and forth. We both were going down like the rabbit hole, like constantly refreshing our browsers for the latest developments on it. And as I'm, waiting for news to refresh on it, I went and Googled, because I knew I had heard about there being a Titanic tarot deck. I didn't know if it was something that would still be available. And as it turned out, it was, or I was at least able to find certain sellers that still had copies of it. You could get it with or without the wooden box. But anyway, I had messaged my niece then, like, again, being that the search for the Titan submersible is still underway, I was like, is it gross that I just bought the Titanic Tarot? And her response was, I think it's gross that you didn't already have it. So that was all the validation I needed. But yeah, I mean, following that story, obviously it was making me feel really steeped back in my Titanic fascination. Of course, even if I had the money, I would never drop $250,000 to go down in a submersible to actually see it. The concept of tourism for that, I think, is gross. But all due respect to the souls on board that lost their lives in that pursuit. I'm not going to make judgments on how people spend their own money. I'm not faulting them as much as this even having been something available to them. That's what I find problematic. Not that people are taking a company up on its offerings, but the fact that, like, I think there's a responsibility for the company. Those who do this for a living, for them to continue to go down and research and learn more, that's one thing. But, it's the same thing with space. It's like, it's just not a thing for tourism. But especially if you are going to be letting civilians do it, you better make sure it's going to be safe. So anyways, look at that. That is the tower. This is the point of the movie, because I love James Cameron's Titanic movie as well. I admit it. I weep when it comes to that point. I just lose it every single time because I just cannot handle how terrifying. Here's a kind of fun fact, morbid fact. The couple, there was another lover's card given an option here. It's like this younger couple embracing. But this couple depicted here is a couple that was actually on board, and the wife had an opportunity to get on a lifeboat, but she would not leave her husband. So she stayed on board with him. And I believe there is a couple in the movie that is based on them. They're not characters per se, but Stockton Rush's wife is a descendant of this couple. It's my understanding. I saw an article that said that was the case. And so anyways, just seeing them, I couldn't help but think of that. But I have to say, I'm quite like enchanted by this deck. I do wrestle with like, oh, is it appropriate for me to have something like this that's kind of exploiting this tragedy, but I don't think it is. I don't think that's the intent behind it. Like whoever created this, I feel like it has been done really thoughtfully, really beautifully. Oh God, the Hanged Man. There's an amazing book. I want to say it's called Titanic, Death of a Dream, and it follows the whole inquest that came after the sinking. Fascinating. Fascinating. Anyway, I've gone on about this enough, but maybe I'm just trying to justify for myself that I got that. I don't know. I posed the question to you. Is it gross that I bought that while they were searching for the Titan submersible? I don't know. I'll let you judge. But to finally wind this down, well, this is still going to be a bit, there's still a few decks that I have here, but they kind of are clustered in my mind. I went through a real collage deck phase. And I don't want to say phase as if like, oh, I'm out of it, but I mean just in terms of like, in looking for a deck, I was just like, I want more collage decks. Because I really didn't have too many. The most recent one that I got is the Uncommon Tarot. This is mass market. Nudity alert. This deck is beautiful. I'm still fairly new to working with it, but I've had a good experience with it so far. It's glossy, it's gilded, you know, it's not the most amazing card stock, but it's not the worst either. It's sturdy, it shuffles nicely enough for me. I don't get particular about that, to be honest. But yeah, I just think that there's just really beautiful, like muted color palette to this. It's just, it textured nicely and layered with like photographic images and also illustrations, and I just think it's beautiful. I mean, I don't know, when it comes to collage decks, I really don't know what to say about it because there is just this whole like hodgepodge of things thrown together, but this one feels like among the more cohesive of some that I've seen. I mean, there could still be like a lot going on, but there does seem to be like a focal point. I feel like this one isn't like one of the more distracting ones, and it's lovely. But yeah, I got that on the heels of a bit of an indie splurge. Tarot of the Cosmic Seed was the initial one to draw me. Beautiful backs, beautiful gilding, beautiful cardstock. But this also is collaging that doesn't feel too chaotic to me. In a very similar vein to the Uncommon Tarot. You see a lot of, maybe not a lot, but like more contemporary representations of people possibly, but there's definitely a vintage vibe to it as well. But yeah, another case where sometimes there's photos, sometimes it's just illustration. I guess some cards can be kind of pippish, but still have other visual elements to go off of. I love this one. It doesn't feel like lazy pips to me. So yeah, it just, the colors in this deck, you know, just like these jewel tones, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's just, I feel like with collage decks in general, it's not going to generally be my go-to, but it's just for when I'm just in that mood, and it's just the same thing with aesthetics. I mean, I think we would all agree on that if we have like different decks to pick from. where you're just kind of drawn to one. Some might speak to a certain type of reading better than others, and then at other times you're just in the mood for something. And so it's like when I purchased these, I was just really in the mood for immersing in this kind of color and having things just a little bit more abstract through the collage, and I was just so into it. Part of it too was like just wanting to compare and contrast a bit too, to see if any one deck's collage style resonated with me more than another, but also just to use them with each other. Not even, I don't want them to compete with each other. I actually thought they might be cool to use together and bring those different viewpoints in. So then the other one that I got was the Guided Hand Tarot. Again, you get a mix of vintage and contemporary. But, you know, it's like as with every deck, it's just yet another person's viewpoint. And, you know, sometimes these things land and sometimes they don't. And bam, I missed another opportunity for my Comical Cards VR to Julia Peekaboo Rose. This one makes me laugh. It's like, this doesn't quite fit. I don't know. It's funny. But anyway, that's the Nine of Cups. Oh, I love this hermit. Look at him playing his record albums. Oh gosh, I love the sun. I believe this was done analog, old school, cutting out and layering. And so, I mean, you can really see those textures coming through. And that's really cool. I have to say, there's a couple cards in here that I mentally switch with each other deliberately. This is the Two of Wands. This is the Three. I don't know about you, but I'm inclined to see this is the Two. This person who is still looking out a window at the world, still looks inside to me, looking out. That's very Two of Wandsy to me. And then the Three, well, first of all, there's the three women, so I just see that three and it just immediately makes me think that this card is a three. But they look like they're aboard a ship and like venturing out into that world that this person is still just looking at. So in my head, I switched these, even though it doesn't sync. There are only two wands featured in this image, but that's how I look at it in my head. So anyway, curious for your thoughts in the comments, if you would agree with that or not. So then the other one that I had gotten with those previous two is called Practical Magic. And I believe there's another tarot deck out there called that. This is completely different from that. And I think this deck had me at the Fool. I mean, going back to my 80s roots, look at that boombox. I love that. There's a very like fresh, fun, contemporary vibe to this, whereas a lot of my collage decks I feel like that I've gone to have a lot of like vintage imagery, and so I thought this would be a really neat contrast. I mean, this is a very bizarre one, Eight of Wands. Kind of like, ooh, is this a crime scene? But maybe like sequins. So yeah, I just thought it would be like a neat contrast if there are other things that seem a little bit more like old-timey in some of the images, and then this just brings in this just kind of like bright and youthful breath of air. And I think it was intended especially for people who are learning tarot, because as you might have noticed, there are keywords. So nostalgic for Six of Cups. I don't think the majors, no, they don't. The majors don't have keywords. They do in this little fold out guidebook, but seven, wait, is it seven? no, I'm sorry, Two of Pentacles, juggle it all. So if you are a beginner at tarot, this could help for having the keywords right there. Or not though. I have to say, like, I don't think I would have wanted to start with something like this, just taking someone else's keywords. Like, I like in Lisa's video series, her Tarot with Training Wheels, where she encourages getting a deck and writing onto it a keyword that you select for yourself. So it could be one that you've heard somewhere. But basically, like, as you're coming to know the card on your own, the keyword that you find is best resonating for that and will help you best recall the meaning. I like that way of just kind of customizing it versus just being committed to what that particular deck is telling you, like that one person's keywords. Maybe you don't want that. You might want some, but change it up with the rest. So I have to say, like, I don't think I actually would have wanted to start out with a deck like this that would have me just memorizing this other person's keywords before I was like really synthesizing it for my own across references. But regardless, I appreciate how much that could really help. And actually that is why I got this also, not just for like the contrast and the vibe that it gives, but I thought like in using it, I did want to pair it with these other collage decks to almost be like an oracle card among them with the keyword that I could use. Because some of these might be different than what I would think. Well, okay, Knight of Swords, we've got Machiavelli. I never really considered that for Knight of Swords. So for some of these, like, I don't know that they are like necessarily the keyword that I would go to as far as like what my understanding of these cards are. I mean, some, yes, for sure, but some not necessarily. So I almost look at this as like an oracle. You got it all. 10 of Pentacles. How fun. So yeah, that was a big reason for me wanting to get it. I like the idea of the keywords, and I thought it would be neat to have something like that to go with these other collage decks. Again, just like in the midst of all that abstraction, something a little anchoring for a reading. So that was the logic behind that. And I think that's all the decks. That was 13. My calculations are correct. That I have accumulated since the spring, and that's what I have gotten here. I'm about to travel home to visit family in the States, and there are decks waiting for me there for sure. Ones that offered better shipping to the States than to the UK. So this is probably going to be posting at the time that I am overseas, and so I'm hoping to do a video over there, perhaps unboxing what is awaiting me on those shores. That could be kind of fun, and oh my gosh, I haven't been there since March, so I actually kind of forget what might be there. So it'll be fun for me to discover what I'm opening as well. So yeah, I'll try to follow up with a video like that. And in the meantime, comment below if you have worked with any of these decks and would like to share your experience with them. If there's any new acquisitions that you're really excited about and you would like to share that as well, I would love to know, as always. So meanwhile, I hope that you are doing well, and I am in such a brain fog right now that I just don't know how to wrap this up. So how about I'll just close with